All right, what is up, guys? This is DDP from the Dallas Prospect, back from a short hiatus here of live streams at least. And I'm joined here tonight by my dude, Big Game James. James, how are you doing this fine evening?
I'm chilling, big dog. Chilling. You know what I'm saying. I know we might talk a little Mavs, so please, whoever, if somebody jumps on this stream, seeing me with Cowboy stuff when we talking Mavs, just it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know basketball too.
Fair enough. Man, I have been completely out of the loop the past couple weeks here. I mean, it's been longer than that, but as far as live streams, I think the last time I was on here, it feels like a month and a half ago at least. It was last time I was on here, I think I had like a handlebar mustache. So it's been a minute. It's been a minute. I let my channel vote on what I would do. That's what they voted. So I rolled one stream with the handlebar and then started growing it all back because I can't pull off a handlebar. I learned that.
I could not pull off none of that. So don't even ask me. Don't vote for me on nothing like that, dog. For real.
Yep. But yeah, it's been quite a while here. Thankfully, getting back into the swing of things, we will be able to get stuff sorted out. I'm still kind of updating some things as we go with the stream, so some of you guys might see that the logo is updated, like on the page and all that. The old one's still around, like I see it's on the stream right now. That's an oversight. But the logo is updating. I'm going to update some branding stuff and all of that and see if I can pump up my production value just a smidge here and there where I can. But in the meantime, I wanted to jump on here and talk a little bit of sports in whatever capacity we basically can. You and I, James, obviously talk sports plenty back and forth, whether it's Cowboys or even Mavericks. But I wanted to jump on here and figured we would just do kind of like an open forum of sorts where we just we can talk a little bit of either and we can let the chat jump in and kind of ask questions or maybe steer to whatever topic they want to talk about. Just kind of keep it open-ended like that. And I figured we'd just run 30, 40 minutes or something like that and just kind of call it. Just kind of like dip the toes back in the water a little bit. See if it's nice and warm, you know?
Right, for sure. Because it's been cold in the NBA. I know that.
It has been frigid in the NBA for sure. The latest I saw on that, I honestly don't know if it's coming back. I know a lot, like this season, I know a lot of the players voted like they wanted to come back. But then it seems like you have like even Mark Cuban and them kind of saying, you know, we don't know if that's the best thing right now until we can get tested at the same capacity of like people like in the White House. You know, they're tested daily. Until we can like do that kind of thing, they're not even comfortable opening up like the practice facility and everything, which is just at the AAC. The practice court's just downstairs. But yeah, it's I look at that and I wonder, you know, teams are returning to it in the cities that have opened up. I think Miami did it, Cleveland did it, but I don't know how they open up and resume the league if you got teams like the Mavericks who are kind of like, I can't do it or not gonna do it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird situation because not only are you looking at the basketball side of it, look at the NFL. The NFL is like full steam ahead. Yep. NFL is like, we're not even worried about none of that stuff. We're opening up the facilities. I mean, we know the facilities are going to be open on Tuesday with the NFL, and they haven't missed a beat as far as stopping anything. You know what I'm saying? So that's just really weird how it seems like the NFL is like going so hard, and it's more of an outdoors, you know, in the NBA, straight all arenas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And these are outdoors and things of that nature. NFL hasn't slowed down anything, but the NBA is being more cautious. So that's why I wonder is like the NFL being too gung-ho, is the NBA being too cautious? That's where I'm trying to figure it out because you got one sport going hard and you got another sport saying, we don't know about that yet.
Yeah, I imagine the answer kind of lies somewhere between the two. I imagine that I think the NFL kind of staunchly digging in its heels and refusing to let anything really be thrown off. I mean, they made the draft not a live in-person event. But other than that, they've really not allowed it to affect business, which is good for them, but they also had the benefit of their season being further down the road than a lot of others. Now, baseball, they were similarly down the road, but baseball should have already started. So really the NFL's just based on the schedule they're looking at every year. They were in a position where they weren't going to have to face quite that difficult decision Obviously, they wouldn't have folded like the XFL, but the XFL in the middle of their season, it just completely shot that to hell. NBA in the middle of their season, they got like 14 games left. If they do come back, they should just launch into the playoffs, and it's basically playoffs with empty arena. I don't know how else you really do that.
I mean, that's the only way you can do it. You cannot have the end of the season. It has to be over. The season has to be over. You immediately have to look at the seeds in the playoffs, and you have to roll it right there. As you said, I don't know how they're going to do it. It can't be fans in this arenas, not now. But it's not impossible, because this is what I can say. NBA players say, well, I don't like that. I'd rather, people be in the arenas. It's just going to feel weird.
Yeah.
But they gotta go back to, I played basketball all my life, and there's plenty of times where we had very intense 5-on-5 games, and nobody was in the damn gym.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We've done plenty of games where you've run exhibition games, or how many times have you run scrimmages against other teams? How many times I've played in running scrimmages and nobody was there, and they were just as intense. They went just as hard. It's just the fact that players are used to getting cheered and yelled, and that's what they're used to. But you ain't going to die if ain't nobody in that arena. And if they wanted to resume and they want to still get money, because they're going to be losing money if they don't have this, then guess what? People just ain't going to have to be there, and NBA players are going to have to deal with it. And they'll be okay. Y'all get paid plenty money. Y'all be all right.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's definitely a situation where, they don't want to do that, but if that's what it boils down to, they're going to have to do that. And I think it have to, because you can't just not run out the season at this point. Like to cancel the rest of the season, I think feels like I don't want to say a step too far, because certainly there's a discussion to be had on if the safety parameters involved. But I think that there is a path to still having at least the playoff run, and so I think based on that, if you have a path, you should probably explore it, because the NBA, like anyone else, it's a business. They're not going to want to lose hundreds of millions of dollars based on everything from advertising rights, the television contract and all that, not having those games. If they can give us jank-ass horse tournament or something on ESPN, surely they can find a way to give us something a little bit more now that we're, to the point where we're starting to open up.
Yeah, not just that. They got to, this is my opinion, the NBA season ended anyway, regular season, mid-April? That's when it usually ends, like the 23rd or the 22nd, and the playoffs start right after that. Well, right now it's May.
Yeah.
It's going into June. So it's only a month off. You can still have the damn season. You get what I'm saying? It's not like this is a 2-month thing where this is 3 months down the line, and now you're trying to figure out, do you still want to have an NBA season? You're only a month away from when you had the playoffs starting. So you can definitely still make this feasible to make it happen. And like you said, no fans in the arena. If that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. But people are still going to be tuned in on that TV. People are going to be tuned in to TNT and all them stations, even more now, because ain't nobody going to be there. So if they may not be getting the money inside those arenas, but they'll be getting money outside. But at the end of the day, I'm sure it's going to hurt them, because they were saying that people aren't coming in for them tickets and aren't coming in arenas. It is damaging still, because they're not making no profit.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, Mark Cuban, I think, had said most recently that his recommendation for when they open up, and like I said, he's kind of flipped from he's still optimistic of having the season, but his stance is kind of flipped now, where he's saying, if we resume, we should resume in Christmas Day. Huh?
Christmas Day.
Christmas Day is what he said, and I'm like,
stop it.
I'm 7 months down the road. From a safety standpoint, that's certainly going to be safer than where we are now. But you're at that point, you're what?
Starting
the season starts
over
in October usually. You're 2 months into the season of the following season at that point.
Mark Cuban though, he's extreme, bro. We know. I love Mark Cuban. He gets on my nerves sometimes. I can't keep it real. I keep it real, but. You know how Cuban is. He's extreme. He's always been the extremist. So he's going to say them extreme, off the wall type things from his point of view. So I ain't listening to him on that. It's about to be June. Get this stuff started. Figure it out and get this NBA rolling next month, dog. It's real. I know it's a little bit more complicated than I can just sit out there and speak it, because everything else is going on. But come on, man. You got to get this NBA back. We need to see it, and there's still enough time for you to save these playoffs. So make it happen.
Yeah. I would very much like it to come back in some capacity, if for no other reason than selfishly a little bit wanting to watch basketball and wanting to have a little bit more content again for the channel, because
Right.
things have definitely hit a halt here. I know NFL has kept chugging along like we talked about earlier, but even on that front, I feel like it's been some stuff here and there to talk about. Like I did a video talking about CeeDee Lamb, for instance, on that draft pick. I'm still geeked about that. And
Mm-hmm.
I know obviously you've been talking about that quite a bit.
Yep.
It's definitely a situation, I think, where if that guy falls to you where he does at 17, like there's no way you can pass on it, even if receiver wasn't the top of your want list or need list. And that dude, I think, I've said before, I think
You
he's the
watched
best.
him. You're an Oklahoma fan, so you know it.
Yeah, I think he's the best wide receiver to come out of the University of Oklahoma, and that is a transformational element he can bring. I think he's a multiple-time Pro Bowl talent, and I think that dude, it gives you insurance on the Amari front, because we talked about how his deal is a 2-year guaranteed thing, basically. There you go. You got 2 years where you could kind of bring that along slowly, and then you could transition into that if you wanted, if it came to that. I know Amari's age, obviously, he's like, what, 25? His age shouldn't be a problem, but if you did decide that, hey, 20 million per year is a bit rich for our taste, well, there you go. After 2 years, CD should be ready for a monster year in year 3, and now you got that breakout where you got Gallup and CD Lamb, and then you can figure out the rest from there. So it's very enticing on that level for him. But in the meantime, you got a wide receiver core that should just be beastly. And I was a little reluctant at the end of last year to like let myself be kind of drawn back into like the excitement for the Cowboys, just because it's like, man, nothing changed with this coaching staff. Well, now it's new coaching staff. Well, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, then you get CeeDee Lamb and it's like, shit, they got me.
Right. Every time I try to get away, like the old Godfather said, they keep pulling me back in. But here's my thing on the DDP. I'm excited, but I'm still cautious. I'm keeping it real. I'm not going to jump out there no more and be like, yeah, championship, blah, blah, and then, you know what I mean? So I'm still cautious, even though Mike McCarthy, I feel like is going to be heads and shoulders better than Jason Garrett.
Yep.
I feel like he's going to do a lot more wonders whenever Dak gets signed. He's going to be a great addition, and that's why I'm really excited, because as I said before, if you had a Dak Prescott who was drafted in the 4th round and did all this stuff with Garrett and his staff, what more can you be excited when Mike McCarthy is coming on board with his staff and is going to be putting his hands on Dak? And we've seen what McCarthy has done throughout his career with quarterbacks, even as an offensive coordinator. So it gets you excited. Then, like you said, you have a CeeDee Lamb fall to you. How many times has that happened? Like I said, I did that draft simulator like 20 times, and none of them fell except one. Yep. One draft fell for CeeDee Lamb, and it was the day before we did our mock draft on the show. And when he fell, I had CeeDee Lamb, I had Jerry Jeudy, and I had K'Lavon Chasen all available to me. And you know what? I took CeeDee Lamb. I said, you know what? I like Jeudy, but there's something about Lamb I like better. It's just something about him I like better. I just think later, if we looking at 5-year trajectory, in my opinion, I think it's going to be better. Just my opinion. And when we see that he falls in your lap, and then, like you said, it's a great situation to have, that you got 3 receivers. And here's the thing: if Amari Cooper does after 2 years, because we talked to people on the shows and saying that we thought it might be Gallup, and now we're hearing, you know what, it might be Cooper, because he's going to be older. Michael Gallup is a dog. His contract's be coming up in 2 years, when Amari's going to be done in 2 years. Yep. If they see CeeDee Lamb and he is turning up these first 2 years, Amari Cooper is probably going to be gone there.
Yeah, I could definitely see a path for that. And, as we talk about everything, because people still keep talking about the Dak thing, which to me is exhausting right now, because we know nothing's going to happen right now. Nothing's going to happen until, like, the deadline. We're not going to get anywhere until right in the 12th hour or the 11th hour, whatever you want to say, in that regard. And so, one, it feels like a moot discussion point to me anyway. But 2, it's like, if all the concern we place on that money there, you now have a little bit more wiggle room, presumably, with this pick, where you should be able to, after a couple years, find cap relief in a sizable chunk. If suddenly you still got a rookie contract, CD with at that point in 2 years, you'll be a second contract for Gallup, won't you? Because he's a 4-year deal, I believe.
Yeah, he's a 4-year deal.
Yeah.
He doesn't get the option because he was a second or third. He was a third-round draft pick.
He's a third round pick, I believe.
His third-round pick. So his contract is up. It's kind of like the Dak thing. When his contract is up, it's up. But like I said, I think what really hurt Amari when people, I wanted Amari back. I love his talent. I always kind of wonder, but my cousin, I mentioned my cousin because my cousin has that kind of same like attitude, like Amari, not attitude, but he's quiet. But that don't mean he care about stuff. That don't mean just because he don't talk or he don't say nothing. He's always been a quiet person. We call him the quiet storm. But he's just as intense. He goes just as hard, but he just don't talk. And even when he talks low. That's what Amari is. So I was thinking, well, you know what? They might just be the same. But the thing that's throwing me off, and everybody keeps talking about it, and I think now the transition may be from Amari to Gallup now, because I was thinking it was going to be Amari that was going to stay, and then Gallup was going to be gone, and they're going to roll with CD and Amari.
Yeah.
But that thing what happened at Philly, dog, where he took himself out of that damn game.
Yep.
It's not
sitting well just allowed himself to come out of that game.
Yeah, it's not sitting well with people, and people are still talking about that. That if you was a top dog, like if that was Dez or if that was Michael Irvin, if that was a top dog, there's no way in hell.
Dude, Irvin would have grabbed the scissors himself and chasing care of just like
there's
the
no
locker
way
room.
in hell that would have happened. Like he would have never been like, I'm tired, or the coach said, no, we're gonna go with this player. No, he'd be like, no, you ain't, motherfucker. You're gonna put me on this damn field, and you're gonna probably try to throw the ball to me. You feel what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that just left a lot of bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And Stephen Jones, when I talked to Jeff Kavanaugh, he was saying they said they was asking Stephen Jones, like, what's up with Amari? How come he did that? And Stephen Jones was real mum on it, like he ain't want to talk about it. Like so I think that might be the change up where you see, like I said, Gallup getting extended and Amari probably walking, and just listen to other people. They're gonna be really looking at the CD Lamb in these first 2 years. If CD Lamb is really turning up, and like you said, when we listen to Jesse Holley, and I was already feeling it with Michael Gallup already. There's nothing wrong with being a dope ass number 2 receiver.
Yeah,
everybody feels like you got to be a number 1, and I felt that Michael Gallup is not a number 1. I mean, I love him, I like him, and I thought his rookie year he could be he's just a nasty number 2, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And by the way, guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to Silver and Blue. They've been killing it lately. James has been killing it lately, getting a bunch of guests, Jeff Kavanaugh, Jesse Holley, Philip Tanner. Who else have you guys rolled in lately? You guys have had like guest after guest lately, killing it.
Philip Tanner, Jesse Holley. I had Brandon Tucker trained Alden Smith. We had Jesse. We had Kavanaugh on there, and we're gonna have Darren Woodson on Tuesday.
Yeah, dude.
And possibly Patrick Creighton coming up soon too.
Wow. Dude, yeah, you guys are killing it. Like that is, I could only dream of setting up that kind of like run of guests or anything like that. Even if we were talking like on the basketball side, like that is phenomenal work. We're gonna get that popping. You just wait. So anybody who's watching this Dallas prospect, just wait, because me and DDP are gonna be in cahoots. Of course, it's still gonna be his thing, his channel. But we're gonna be in cahoots and getting this b-ball rocking whenever it does come back. And so if you checked out Silver and Blue Nations, I go hard with my interviews. That's something I love and I have a passion for. But when we get on this basketball tip, me and DDP, you be looking out for these basketball interviews with these NBA players, former Dallas Mavericks. Just watch and see what I tell you. You're gonna love that ride. Yep. It's going to be a lot of fun once we get to that point when we got all those guests lined up and everything.
Oh, it's coming. It's
going to be good, man. I'm really looking forward to that.
All right, spoken in the air. It's coming.
But yeah, so I agree on the point about Gallup being a great number two receiver and everything. I think that makes a lot of sense for the team. I think Amari I think you had to sign him, even though people had a little bit of a sour taste after the Philly game. I think you had to sign him, and I think then with the just stroke of luck with CeeDee Lamb falling to you at 17, you basically were just given almost like not only a get out of jail free card, but potentially even better than that. You know what I mean? Because now your number one receiver after you get off of the Amari deal potentially, if things are need to happen that way, or if he's not living up to the contract in our franchise's opinion, then there you go. You've got that, and your presumably number one receiver at that point would still be on his rookie contract. Gallup would be on a much more affordable number two receiver contract at that point. So yeah, you could repeat the process. And it's worth noting, as high as I am on CeeDee Lamb, and I am sky high on CeeDee Lamb. I said before the draft to a handful of people I talked with about the Cowboys pick, I was like, if any receiver falls there, if his name is not CeeDee Lamb, I don't even look receiver. Like, even if it was Jerry Jeudy, I was like, I'm not going to do that. I think address elsewhere. Because I think Jeudy is a great receiver, but I kind of view him kind of as like a Calvin Ridley, where he's a great route runner, but not necessarily like a number one guy. And I was like, if it falls to you that way, in the case of like CD, then great. I'm all in on it. But we got to temper that with the expectation that rookie years for receivers are not typically monster years. And so that's why it's great that for the Cowboys, you've got a couple years to kind of see how CeeDee Lamb rounds into form before you make any sort of decision on Amari. And even then, that's just the earliest out they would have for that, because the guaranteed money is $40 million, so 2 years of his deal. So you could do it then, or if you really wanted to, you could stretch it another year, but you might have to do some creative accounting or something with some of these contracts, whether it's a restructure or whatever. And obviously,
that's a bad word.
Restructure is a bad word. I hate it too.
That's a bad word. Don't mention no restructures. That's a bad word. Bad word.
Yeah, you've heard me in the past rant about how we used to kick the can down the road about restructuring all these deals, but they still do it, man. They still do it. We did it just within the last year. So it happens.
Most teams do. That's what they're going to do. If they feel like they need that money bad enough, they're going to go to somebody. Hey, can we restructure this deal, backlog that? But it's going to hit you down the road 2-3 years later. It's going to smack you in the face. So you just got to be really good with that cap and really got to do good with those numbers. But I'm feeling what you're talking about with Jeudy.
Yeah.
If Jeudy was there, like I said, I came up in my mock draft and I had Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb in my mock draft available, and I went with Lamb. I just didn't. Jeudy was cool, but like you said, I wouldn't have jumped out there for a Jeudy as hard, like in that first round, as I would a CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah,
Lamb
in open space is absurdly good.
It just, you've seen the videos, and I know it is videos, but I just feel like this kid.
In the Red River rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, oh, Lord, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. We was being cool as hell. Then you want to go talk about that shit, because I'm tired of them showing that goddamn, excuse my language, video and them shaking all my damn Texas players.
Dude,
but enough is enough.
Guys.
We get it.
I don't care if enough
is enough. We get it.
Team.
He shook my whole team. We get it. We get it. He shook my whole squad. We get it. I don't want to see that no more. We know he's good. Don't show that tape no more.
To be fair, if the roles were reversed, I would still be in awe, even though I would be like, damn it. All right, well, yeah, that's pretty damn impressive. But yeah, that highlight obviously gets thrown out there a lot. But Lamb in open space, the evasiveness is next level. And we don't have a lot of guys that have that kind of shiftiness. Like Amari's an expert route runner, a surgeon of a route runner. So one, that's a great guy to learn from anyway, because CD's a solid route runner. He's got crazy agility. What's his speed? 4.5. It's not crazy blazing speed, but solid.
But they were also saying that he had a little hitch when he did that
the 4.5
at the 40 time. So I think he's like a 4.5 or like a 4.48. I think he's a 4. In my opinion, I feel like he's a 4.4 guy. He's not that, even because, I mean, think about it. Amari Cooper is a 4.4 guy, but he still ain't like just beating you. Like, if you got a guy who's fast and he got a guy and they take off straight, I think you can get at Amari. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He doesn't have that like burner speed, which I think Lamb is. He doesn't have like that burner straight line, but he has more that stop. Go, stop. And that's
and he makes you miss. Ridiculous.
He makes you miss. And that's what you really love. And what I really love about CeeDee Lamb more than anything, which I like a lot of the draft picks they had an awesome draft this year. But it just seems like CeeDee is really intense. Like, he is really on it. He seems like he's really took it to heart. The Cowboys drafted me. And I think he really took it personal, not being one of the first receivers taken off that draft board.
He was the third, right?
Yeah, he was a third behind freaking Ruggs. I mean, come on, Ruggs went before him like that. And I know he probably looked at it like, what? Henry Ruggs went before me? Wait till I get on this damn field with these Cowboys.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to be interesting. I think the Cowboys had an excellent draft. We obviously gush about CeeDee Lamb, but I think they had pretty much top to bottom an A- at least draft. I think they had a great turnout there. So we'll see what the new coaching staff with the new era and all of that leads to for the team. I'm hopeful. I'm cautiously hopeful because I've been burned. I try to stay back and be like, all right, I'm going to be a little bit more objective. I'm going to try and view this like purely a sports journalist here. I'm going to try and just remove that element. And then they go and draft one of my favorite OU players of all time. I'm like,
then you're like, shit, I'm back on it. I'm back on it. And not only that, dog, you get Trevin Diggs.
Yep.
That was huge.
Was a phenomenal get in the second round.
And then you got your boy, Gallimore.
Yep. Gallimore's.
What you think about him? You're an Oklahoma guy. What's your take on Gallimore?
I like him. I will say that he doesn't blow me away, but I like the pick a lot. I think he's a very steady hand. I think he can certainly help a lot in the middle of that defense. His pass rush ability is very good. His run defense was his so-so element at OU.
Malik Collins part 2?
Do what?
Malik Collins part 2, great pass rush.
I could kind of see that, but I think he's got a little bit more physical ability perhaps than Malik Collins.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think he can be maybe a little bit more impactful than that. Initially, my feeling initially, and I kind of had to remind myself a little bit, like I literally had to go back, even though I watched his career at OU, I went back and like studied a little bit of his stuff again, because when I heard it, my mind immediately echoed back for just a second, maybe just because it was a defensive line player from OU taken in about the same position, third versus fourth. My mind flipped back to
Charles Tapper.
And I was like...
I knew you was going to say Charles Tapper.
I was like, wait a minute.
But hold up, though.
And then I went back and I looked at the two side by side, and I'm like, okay, never mind. I feel a little bit better
different.
now.
These are different people.
Yeah.
Like Charles Tapper.
I looked,
and
I looked at his
DDP.
combine, that being Gallimore's combine, and I was like, okay, you know what? I get why that initially triggered in my mind of kind of like, I don't know. But then once I went back and really looked at it, I was like, no, okay, this is not the same dude. He doesn't have the baggage of the back injury or the back defect, birth defect that Tapper had as well. So, and he's got the actual motivation and all that. And he's also an interesting candidate, being that he came from Canada, played high school in Canada.
I mean, with that Gallimore thing, I'm gonna be honest with the Tapper comparison. The biggest thing that stands out to me with Tapper, number one, if anybody watched my show when Tapper got drafted, I like Tapper, but I also said, then I went back and I did research on Tapper, okay? And there were two things that stood out in my brain. One, when Tapper was young, you're not just with that birth defect, he didn't like football at all.
Yeah.
He did not like it. His mother made him play football all through school. That right there was like, okay, hold up, red flag sign. I had to put the time out after I seen that, because I coached 15 years and I coach kids that don't like football. And guess what? After a while, you're going to quit. And so what I said was, if Charles Tapper gets cut from Dallas, he ain't going to be playing NFL no more. Have you heard from Charles Tapper since he got cut from Dallas?
Not a damn word. I never even heard of him landing on a practice squad or anything.
You get what I'm saying? I said Charles Tapper will never play in the NFL anymore if he gets cut from Dallas. That's why, because I don't believe he never liked football, and he played because his mama.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying? So that was key to me. But then when I look at, like you said, when I look at the body type of Gallimore and Tapper, is different.
Yep.
And plus, Gallimore just looks more hungrier than him. And OU, in my opinion, doesn't do service of defensive linemen, because I feel like they play him out of position, because they had Tapper just
Mike
like
Stoops
I feel like
definitely does that.
You feel me? Like they had Tapper just like they had Gallimore. They had him in the wrong spots, and they were having them hold down the run. And Gallimore's strength was pass rushing, but they put him in positions where they have to stop the run or hold the line of attack, and it's taken away from their positions. I've seen that too much happen with Oklahoma.
Yeah, he had a bigger impact this past year under Grinch, but yeah, I think that's part of why I was lukewarm on him, honestly, initially, because I thought about his production throughout his time at OU, and I was like, I don't remember taking note of him very much. I mean, I knew who he was, but I didn't take too much note of him in his first couple of years there. And but this last year, I was like, he did have a better year. I did hear a lot more about him, but I just think it was the difference of playing in the Mike Stoops defensive system and comparing that to, obviously, Alex Grinch. Very different in that regard. So we'll see if that trend continues with OU in terms of how they play their defensive line players. I think that's part of why they struggle to recruit defensively in recent years, because they had until this past year Mike Stoops from like, what was it, like 2012, something like that, like 2012 until last year. I mean, they had him a good stretch back in his second tenure, and I think that just kind of gutted some of that recruiting, because if you're a defensive line player, why would you want to go there? Play at a position, not play to your strength and all that. But yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see his impact, and we didn't even talk about their 5th round pick. That I think is certainly underrated. Now, I did see his 40 time was garbage at the combine.
Yes, 4.97.
How do you say his last name?
Anai.
Okay. I've been saying it wrong then. Anai.
Yeah, we all have.
Yeah. Anai. Yeah. I saw his 40 time at the combine was just wretched. Like, 4.97, you said?
4.97. And in his drills, he looked stiff. We were actually, me and Boothang was at the combine, so we got to see him. And, we were commenting because we got to see all the defensive linemen. So we saw all those guys. And I kept looking at Anai because I wanted to watch him, because Senior Bowl, if you watched him at his career, that dude is nasty.
Oh, yeah. At Utah, he was a beast.
Yes. And the thing that you like about him, he has advanced pass rushing moves. He's not a dude that just comes off the edge. I think he kind of knew he wasn't a super athlete, so he knew, I got to learn other parts of the game for me to be effective. So I feel like he's came out a more mature player as far as advance with the hand fighting and his pass rushing moves. So that really helped him get the edge in his conference. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But Utah usually puts out good players. You know what I'm saying? They had the Jalen Johnson, they had Leaky Futu. So Utah puts out good players, and they play in that conference is a pretty tough conference.
Yeah.
But I think when I watched him at the combine, me and Booth, I was looking at him like, man, he ain't athletic, but man, when you just look at him, he's just a damn football player.
He's got a mean streak to him as well, which I like.
He's a football player, and he's intense, and you could just feel it. And when you look at him and watch him, it's like, okay, I like this dude. It's just something about him. He may not have all those physical, natural, athletic traits like super off the charts, but guess what? There's some dudes in the NFL or go to the league that are just football players, and we've seen them in the NFL. They don't have the best 40 times. They don't have this. They don't have that. But guess what? They just make plays, and that's what that dude is going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he has a chance to be one of those guys that comes in and immediately has a pretty positive impact on this team. I think CeeDee Lamb with this coaching staff, I think he'll be allowed to return punts. I don't know about kickoffs, but punts.
No kickoffs. Tony Pollard kickoffs, CeeDee Lamb punts.
And, our special teams obviously has been garbage the past few years. So I think that's an impact place where you could see him really do that. We know what he can do in space. We know how he can make people miss. And I would be curious. I'm sure there's something out there for it, talking about, even with the heightened safety precautions that the NFL has tried to take on special teams play, the fact that hardly any punts are ever returned anymore, for instance, and kickoffs almost never. But right. I'd be curious to see, like, okay, now at this point with that lowered risk, can he safely be allowed to play in that position? He's your number 3 receiver, so you would assume yes. He played about 30% of his snaps in the slot last year at OU and still accounted for 7 of his 14 touchdowns there. So he's got balance even if he mostly played outside. So that's one positive about him, why you could slide him in right there. But I want to see if they're willing to use him creatively in different, in different ways. Like, you can occasionally move him outside. You can move some of these guys around. You have the ability to do that. I think with really all 3 of the Cowboys receivers there. But I want to see if they get creative with him, because he has that ability to be a game breaker. And if they will willingly do it, something Garrett's coaching staffs would never do, you could have another X factor to your team that is really a difference maker in 1 or 2 games of the season that you might otherwise not have won.
Well, as you said, Garrett is gone. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Praise the Lord.
Yep.
Because I don't want to see that. And now I got a Mike McCarthy on the squad, and now you got a Kellen Moore who's year two, which is critical. Mm-hmm. He was a rookie offensive coordinator. Now he's seen things, and he has a veteran coach who's been there and done that and has won. And we seen Mike McCarthy. He gets creative with his receivers. He loves the tall receivers and be able to move them around. He likes mismatches. So I'm a lot more confident with the staff of a Mike McCarthy being able to use a CD Lamb more creatively, or a Amari Cooper, or a Michael Gallup, or a Tony Pollard, or a Blake Jarwin, or Ezekiel Elliott. I get more excited when I see a Mike McCarthy because I know he's not going to sit there and just sit on his tools. He's not just going to sit there and say, oh, well, I got Ezekiel Elliott. I ain't using Tony Pollard. Yeah. No, he's going to say, you know what? I got two horses. Both of these dudes are going to play, and we're going to figure out mismatches so we can always have the advantage. Because when I heard Mike McCarthy, all him saying, he's like, we're going to score points this year. We're going to score points this year. And I believe they're going to score a lot of points this year. And I believe the defense may give up points, but the biggest thing that I'm going to like about a defense, I don't mind a defense DDP if you're giving up some points. I get it. I don't mind that happening if we're being aggressive, if we're attacking you, if we're playing press coverage. That's going to happen when you're doing that. I don't mind that. But when you are aggressive, you have turnovers. And that's the biggest thing the Cowboys have been crying about on defense. We can't get turnovers. We're damn near last in the league and getting turnovers. We don't blitz. I mean, I think it was 2016. I was watching the game against the Green Bay Packers. They blitzed the whole year 15% of the time, dog. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is, yeah. Speaking of...
I don't want to see that shit no more.
No, yeah. Speaking of turnovers and general defensive coaching and everything, salute again for your guys' story that went pretty viral on the Cowboys sphere there and didn't get your rightful credit at all. You guys on the late night hype. I saw Kavanaugh gave it to you, which that's cool.
Kavanaugh's the only one, and Kavanaugh's the only, and Bobby Belt gave some shout outs, so shout out, but Kavanaugh was the guy for real.
There we go. Yeah, so if you guys somehow missed that story, who was it you had on? You had Aloka, right?
Yeah, George Ioka.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they had him on Late Night Hype a few, probably a week or so ago. Yeah. And they were talking with him, and he told basically a story from training camp when he was still with the team about basically moving down in the box, trying to disguise the coverage, getting yelled at by Richard, and basically joking like, oh, so you want them to know what we're doing. And that story ended up, after the fact, going a bit viral, but everybody who would talk about it, no one would ever mention Law or James or Skywalker. They would only say on a podcast, even though they would play the clip. So it's like they clip your
clipped
shit.
It. They showed it on Twitter. They seen our faces.
Yeah. And like the Law Nation logo.
Yeah,
I designed that shit. I designed the Law Nation logo, so I'm like, I feel slighted here.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, really? And then even then, when they gave us the shout out on 105, they were like, our podcast from Law Nation is Silver and Blue podcast. I'm like, for real, dog, you can't put Silver and Blue Nation and Skywalker still, like, for real, y'all half-assed. But that's all right, because guess what? We coming.
We're the thing is, you guys broke through, I think, the first major roadblock on that. You got something they didn't get and that they clearly wanted because it became their fodder. That's the first big step. They're going to ignore you initially. They're going to try and steal your content, and then eventually they're going to have to start acknowledging you directly. Or they'll go the other route. They'll keep going out of their way not to acknowledge you because at that point, you're getting better stuff than they're able to roll out in some cases. So
yeah, and then they'll start playing you like, oh, man, they even know football. They'll start trying to nitpick and all that. But you know what, DDP? I already been battle vested. I've jumped in that foxhole. I'm ready for them. I got the guns loaded. So if you're going to come at us, come on, baby. We're going to keep driving and growing.
There you go. Right mindset for sure. But so definitely got a lot more coming down the pike. You're going to keep grinding on the late night hype and all that. I think you got some stuff on your own as well that you're going to be rolling out. I'm going to continue on with I've been going back and doing a kind of like the post-game show series I was doing throughout this season. I decided that on the off chance we don't get any kind of playoff basketball this year, despite the Mavericks being a 5 seed right now, I was like, you know what? 7 seed. Hopeful. The 7 seed. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to go through the 2011 championship run, and I'm going to do a post-game show for every one of those games. Not just the wins, not just a video per series. I'm going to go through, it's like 22 games if you include it all. I'm going to go through all that, and I'm going to try and break it down and even add an extra layer of depth because of the fact that it is something from years ago that I wouldn't be able to add in real time, like 30 minutes after a game or whenever I would do that. So that's been a fun series for sure. It's a little different. It's got a little variety to it compared to the typical post-game format I would use. But yeah, I definitely want to roll out some more of that stuff. And you were talking earlier about us kind of reaching out and getting some of these basketball interviews as well.
Hell to the yeah. We need to get to the Jason Terrys.
You've got a knack for locking down these interviews clearly. And, you know, I'm going the sports journalist route as well. So we should be able to bring that in and get some good interviews here. One of my main wants for an interview on this show, and I mentioned this, people who have followed this channel for, I would say, they probably would have to remember something from like close to 2 years ago. I said I wanted to eventually get to the point where I had Jason Terry on here. That is my second favorite Maverick of all time, next to only Dirk, of course. And the reason I wore number 31 all through high school was because of Jet. So having him on here and talking about his tenure with the Mavericks would be primo for me. But we'll get to that point for sure.
Definitely, for sure. And like I said, I got a guy who I already had on when I first started out, and I think he might be one of our first guys because he did have some intel, and then we can just kind of roll it from there. But I told you my guy Gary Trent, he played with the Mavericks. How many years? I think it was 3 years he was with the Mavs, maybe. But he was the guy at power forward killing my dog Gary Trent was killing him. He was averaging a 20-10. I mean, he was averaging a double-double, but he hurt his hamstring. And once he hurt his hamstring, he missed like the last part of the season, and then they drafted Dirk, and it was over.
Yeah. that will change the trajectory on you.
It was over. I mean, he was doing his thing because he was balling with Nash and all those guys. He was hooping like because he was with Portland. Yeah, they let him go. I mean, they didn't let him go, but he was getting he was doing good at Portland. He was coming off the bench when that's when they had Jermaine O'Neal, Rasheed Wallace. Pippen. I mean, they had all them big men over there, and he was still getting loose over there. Brian Grant, he was getting loose, and he went over there and was eating at Dallas. But like I said, the injury bug got him because he was banging with Michael Finley and them. Yep. But when that injury got him, and they drafted Dirk, it was over.
Yep,
I'm gonna holler at him first.
Yeah, that'd be a cool interview. That's from I'll have to do a little research on that era because I came in around 2002, 2003 in terms of like full-time fan watching everything, but I always enjoy going back and looking at some of the stuff. Obviously, I've looked at some of it from like the late 80s when they were challenging the Lakers and went to Game 7 of the West Finals, but yeah, that would be fun. I like Landon's confidence here in the chat. He's saying, as we're talking about getting guests, he's like, James, get LeBron or Shaq. I like it.
I mean, hey, shoot for the stars. You can't, I mean, I'm going to keep it real. We didn't think we was going to get a Darren Woodson or anything like that. I mean, that's freaking awesome to me. So, you know, it can happen. You just got to put your foot down and grind it. But like I said, y'all really love that interview with Gary. That's going to open the door for us first. And plus, Gary's son plays for the Portland Trail Blazers, and Gary Trent Jr. was balling this year.
There you go.
Balling, you know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? And I actually, it was funny because when I had Gary on with me, you know, we were talking about his son, and he was just getting ready to commit to Duke. So it's just kind of weird how we talked a couple of years ago that happened, and, you know, to see his son balling out with Portland where he got drafted, and then his son gets drafted at Portland, and then he turns up his second year because his first year he didn't get no playing time. At Portland, but you saw toward the end of the year, he was damn near averaging almost 17, 18 points a game from where, you know, not like the whole year, but from when they put him in that lineup. My boy was balling.
Yeah, there you go. That should make for an interesting interview if we set that up for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to set it up. I'm going to holler at him tomorrow.
Sweet. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap up this edition here. This was just a short kind of touch base, just kind of working our way back in. Like I said, it'd been about 6 weeks or so since I'd been on here live, at least. So James, before we get out of here, tell them where they can find you.
Check me out at Silver and Blue Nation. You can type in silver. Don't do the and symbol. Silver and Blue Nation, YouTube. Really been going hard. I'm probably gonna jump back on Facebook, doing some shows on Facebook. You can find the same thing. All you gotta do is type Silver and Blue. We'll come right up. Twitter, Instagram, all those good things. But I'm really going hard on YouTube right now. Continue to build that channel. As I said before, we got the late night hype, and it's just really been catching a lot of steam and going really hard. If you guys are interested, please check it out. Tuesday, get in that Silver and Blue Nation feed. Deep, thick, hard. Deep, I mean, y'all deep as hell up in Silver and Blue Nation, because we're gonna have Darren Woodson. I'm super excited about that one. That's probably the biggest one we've got ever. It's freaking Darren Woodson. It's Woody. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I'm excited about that one. So make sure, if you know you're not doing anything on a Tuesday night, Tuesday evening, 10 p.m. EST, 9 Central, 7 Pacific. Get in there and check that out, and that Darren Woodson thing, and more things to come. So if you like football, and DDP will be doing this thing with me with the collabs with the football and the basketball. Check me out. We have a good time. We have fun, and I try to make it good for the people that are in there. I'm really about the people.
There you go. So yes, that's going to wrap up our time, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Peace.
Peace.